Viewer discretion is advised. Before we continue with this film, we would like to say that it's a sensitive and an uncomfortable topic to some. Now, most of the victims we interviewed and contacted did not alert the authorities or pursue a case due to the lack of moral support. They didn't understand the process rape kits go through, therefore they weren't able to get one, which is an issue we'd like to discuss. As you watch this film, we'd like you to have empathy, put yourself in their shoes, feel their emotions, their pain, their anger, and their sorrow. Listed are actions that are considered sexual assault, but the list extends with what is considered sexual harassment. We have to learn about the epidemic of sexual violence and rape within our society, in our world at large. It's crazy how every girl knows someone that has been sexually assaulted, but no guys know a rapist.
Hello. Can you tell me about your experience? Any information about it you feel comfortable sharing? Like where, when, and how you felt during it? Anything you could tell me. And did you ever take this to court? If so, how did you feel during the trial? What happened to your attacker? Were they rightfully punished?
Growing up, I was very sheltered. I never really was exposed to the real world. I was also a people pleaser from a very young age. I always wanted to make people happy. I knew a bit of information about the guy I was dating. He was verbally abusive. Every day he would tell me I was worthless and a whore, and he would tell me to kill myself. But then he would apologize. The night of the incident, he came over to my house. My parents didn't like him and said something was off about him, but I didn't believe them. I was 17 at the time, and I believe he was 19 or 20. We were in my room, and he kept touching me, and I didn't say anything at first. Then he started asking me if I wanted to do it. I replied probably like 50 or more times that I wasn't ready, and I wanted to wait until I was married. I finally said okay, and then we went to the store. On the way there, he pulled over and told me to get in the back seat, and I did. Before he started, I told him I changed my mind and that I didn't want to, but he continued. I didn't try to stop him. I kinda just felt numb. I didn't know what to do. When I got home, I went to the bathroom, and in my head I thought I was raped. But he had told me I wanted it and that I deserved it. We eventually stopped talking, and I started doing things I normally wouldn't do because I felt worthless. I tried telling some of my friends, but they didn't believe me.
What is your opinion on the 97% that has been circulating social media? What are some changes that you'd like to see happen and something you believe that can be bettered? How did you feel before, during, and after what had happened? What was the effect that it had on your life?
I think it's crazy and disgusting that so many people go through this. I hate that they feel alone. I would like to see it stop, and I want people to feel comfortable enough to ask for help. I also believe that there needs to be cheaper counseling options. Before this happened, I was very naive. After the incident, I felt hopeless, depressed, and lost. I'm doing better now. It still hurts, but it's made me stronger. After the incident, I found it harder to say no. I'm not sure why, but I need to work on it. I think it's because I'm scared of it happening again.
If you kept up with news, why do you believe the test rape kits have been so hard to handle and why backlogging has happened? Many do find it hard to find support after going through something like this. What was your way of finding support and advice in ways that others can look and find this support?
Honestly, I haven't kept up with research because I don't want to think about it. I got support from my family and close friends, but I know some people don't have that. A way to find support is by going to someone they trust. Keeping your emotions bottled up isn't the proper way to handle it. Well, for me, it wasn't. I got lucky enough to have my family. It was just embarrassing for me to tell them that I put myself in that situation. And I guess that's another piece of advice. It's not your fault. We didn't do anything. What you wear and how you act should not determine your safety. Something that helped me through these difficult times was doing ink therapy and getting piercings. I designed a tattoo that represents me as a survivor. I couldn't find a symbol for sexual assault, but I saw that Lady Gaga had gotten a tattoo in honor of survivors. It's called the Fire Rose. The arrowhead is the fire rose for sexual assault. I got this tattoo on my back because it's a way I feel protected.
For signals or things that people should be aware of, are there any you would like to share?
The first thing is to go with your gut. If you're texting or snapping someone and they seem way too clingy, or if they're manipulating you or gaslighting you, the best decision is for you to leave.
Victims' injuries, relieve mental anguish and physical pain, and act to prevent pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. They also collect evidence for possible criminal prosecution. Sexual assault examination kits, or rape kits as they are commonly called, manufactured by the Searchy Company and provided to hospitals across Ohio, contain the needed tools and a checklist of steps to guide examiners through the process of forensic evidence collection following a sexual assault. Although the boxes look alike, every victim is different. The nurse examiner will use professional judgment to tailor the examination to the individual circumstances. Patients will also be offered an advocate to support them through the process. Also, while the typical victim depicted here is female, male victims of sexual assault undergo a similar process, slightly tailored to their different needs. But in broad terms, here are the steps the kit recommends. First, the patient is asked to give consent for the examination. This consent isn't a one-time yes or no, but rather a cooperative and ongoing process. The patient can consent to some parts of the examination and decline others. The consent may be withdrawn at any time. The narrative of the attack is then established. The victim tells her story. How she describes the attack, as well as how much of it she can remember, will help determine which steps in the evidence-gathering process may be the most important. Now the victim undresses. Examiners search for injuries and soreness on their body. Then the nurse swabs for possible evidence outside of the body, as well as conducting a careful internal examination of the vaginal and cervical areas. This is a difficult time for most patients, and the nurse and advocate stay engaged to try to keep things as light and calm as possible. The next steps involve collecting samples from the victim's body. Some or all of these samples may be collected depending on the type of assault, although some of them are always required. A victim advocate can stay with the victim if they wish. And again, consent for any part of the examination may be withdrawn at any time. For example, an examiner would collect urine, head hair, pubic hair if present, oral swabs, fingernail scrapings, swabbings and cuttings, swabs of the anal and perineal area, swabs of the vaginal area, or penis if the victim is a male. And if drugs, such as date rape drugs, are believed to have been involved in the assault, blood samples. The victim's clothing is collected, examined for stains that may be sampled, and carefully packaged so that no unseen hair or fiber evidence is lost. The victim's care continues with treatment for trauma and injuries, as well as testing and preventative care for pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. Meanwhile, the rape kit forms and samples are carefully sealed in their box, with the kit's chain of custody carefully monitored and noted as the contents make their way to potentially be submitted as evidence of a crime. That's if a victim makes the choice, and the choice ultimately does lie.
Evidence just collecting dust as rapists walk the streets. Hospitals collect rape kits almost every day, yet nationwide, about 400,000 have never been tested. Christopher Heath reports on the reason for the backlog and what's being done.
The reasons given: time and money. Since December of last year, Ohio has been working overtime to hire forensic investigators. Each kit costs about $1,000 to process. Now, a new program could help provide the money to pay for all those tests.
Body of evidence is the person's body.
Christina Hinkle is one of the nurses at University Hospital that collects evidence for rape kits. In an average month, the hospital will use 30 of these kits.
We have several envelopes and we get DNA samples.
Collecting everything from hair to blood to semen to underwear.
The trauma that they go through, the first questions, some of the questions they ask are those questions. What's going to happen with my kit now? Where does it go from here?
In Ohio, that kit will be tested, a standard that is not nationwide. Currently, Congress is considering legislation to expand the nationwide database for rape kits, allowing better cooperation between law enforcement. The bill would also open up about $9 million in grants to pay for testing of almost 500,000 untested kits.
It is very distressing when we can't communicate that information. So with this national registry, that communication is going to be there.
$9 million is just the start. Next year, the federal government will spend about $117 million testing old rape kits, an indication of just how long this has been a problem.
Hello. Can you tell me about your experience, any information about it you feel comfortable sharing? Like where, when, and how you felt during it? Anything you could tell me.
When I was 18, I was going to my friend Alark's house to hang out to pregame before another one of my friend's graduation party. Once there, he held the bottle of Canadian Mist to my mouth and made me chug it. I remember going to pick up another one of my friends, John, to go with us. The next memory I have is of Alark, John, and Matt holding me down while they took turns. I blacked out again and remembered that I was puking up blood at a local gas station. A friend of mine saw us and begged them to let me go with her so she could take me to the ER. And Alark said no and threw me into the car of his back seat. And we took off. I blacked out again and woke up at the party still in his car. I don't remember how I got home, and I never reported it for the fear of no one believing me.
What is your opinion on the 97% that has been circulating social media? What are some changes that you'd like to see happen and something you believe that can be bettered? How did you feel before, during, and after what had happened? What was the effect that it had on your life?
The courage that it took these women to post their stories about being assaulted really astounded me, and it took me a couple of videos before getting the courage to do it as well. Now, some of the changes I would like to see are sexual assault victims being taken more seriously. Women and men who make false claims make us look like liars. It does not matter what anyone is wearing or says or how drunk they are. No one deserves rape, and this is a serious problem and something needs to be done. Now, starting off with the way that I felt was normal before the accident. I was sitting in a car on a back road with someone I thought was my friend. We were laughing and goofing off. I was having a blast. Now, during this, I can't remember some parts, but what I can remember was that I was terrified. 3-on-1, and I wasn't able to fight. Though I tried. Being held down and violated, I wouldn't wish that on anyone. When I was getting sick at the gas station, I was so scared. I was so sick and so scared that I couldn't even beg my friend to save me from them. Afterwards, I went through a very bad phase. I turned into drinking and drugs to numb the pain I was going through. Luckily, I got some sense and got out of that stuff. I never told anyone until years later, even 10 years later, and I can still have nightmares.
If you kept up with news, why do you believe the test rape kits have been so hard to handle and why backlogging has happened? Many do find it hard to find support after going through something like this. What was your way of finding support and advice in ways that others can look and find this support?
I have not kept up with any research so far. I think the reason why they get backlogged is due to the lack of being able to find the person responsible or due to the police not believing the victim in the first place. I never really truly found support. I worked through it on my own. After my bad phase, I turned to reading books. It was my only way of getting away from it all. I have spoken with victims and have talked to them and talked about getting help more than I thought I would. I want to be able to help others like me one day. I have even decided to get a tattoo to represent the change I see in myself. To me, I'm not a victim anymore. I am a warrior. I got back my power that they took from me.
As for signals or things that people should be aware of, are there any you would like to share?
As for any signals, I would definitely say if a guy is trying to pressure alcohol or drugs or any substance on you to get away from that situation, follow your gut. If a guy makes you feel uncomfortable, even if you've known him for a long time, leave the situation. I now carry a taser,
pepper spray in my purse, and a defense stick on my keychain. In general now, it's better to be prepared than helpless.
What to do if you have been sexually assaulted. Number 1, get to a safe place and call an adult to help you. You can also call the National Sexual Assault Hotline for professional support at this number. 2, do not shower, change your clothes, pee, clean under your nails, or brush your hair. I know it feels disgusting, but doing these things can destroy evidence. 3, go to the ER and ask for a rape kit within 72 hours. A rape kit does not mean that you have to press charges and all parts are optional. 4, go to the police ASAP. You can ask to speak to a female officer if that will help and discuss your options before pressing charges. 5, consider getting professional help to start healing. You can speak to therapists or there are support groups that you can join.
Now is as good a time as any to go over my story and what happened with me. I'm feeling ready to share. I've done a lot of work in the past several years, 3 years, to come to terms with what happened to me, to come to terms with an abusive relationship that I was in, and to learn from it and move on and heal. So trigger warning for sexual assault and abusive relationships. This is going to take more than one part. I will post them all at once, don't worry. So I started dating someone who was my age when we were in grade 10 in October. We were friends beforehand. We had a couple mutual friends. And over the course of the relationship, it slowly started to become more and more manipulative and emotionally abusive, which I didn't recognize at first. I was warned away from this individual because of his past deeds, but I did not realize he hadn't changed. So I was aware that he had a history of unhealthy relationships. I was warned of that. I thought he had changed. He had some serious mental health issues as well, stemming from those relationships. So I thought, okay, he's changed, he's working on it, things will be okay. That was not, in fact, the case. My friends noticed pretty quickly that things were going downhill and I was changing. My teachers at school, after a couple months in this relationship, started encouraging me to break up with him. We were in a couple of the same classes, so they knew both of us. My guidance counselor as well. I started seeing her after he attempted suicide because he felt so bad for abusing his previous girlfriend in their relationship. So that was another sign, I thought, that he was moving on and wasn't going to do it again. I was wrong. And it was a big red flag. In the hospital, I started seeing my guidance counselor and everything. She ended up being an amazing support. I saw her all through high school. She saved my life. I am not joking. Multiple times. But I ended up going away for the summer of our relationship. I was at camp doing leadership training and everything. He cheated on me while we were apart. And I didn't care. That should have been another sign that this relationship wasn't going to work, because I just didn't care about it. I thought it was kind of funny, to be honest. I wasn't very happy in this relationship, but I was scared to leave because I was scared that he was going to hurt himself. If I did, he would frequently tell me that I was the only reason that he was still alive, that I was the only reason why he got help after attempting suicide, because he saw like my goodnight message and that made him seek help, which totally fair, I get it. But he used it as a way to keep me in the relationship, which was not a healthy thing to do for either of us. And when we started grade 11 was when things really went downhill. I was stressing a lot with school. It was a really tough time, and I was not enjoying this relationship. I felt obliged to stay in it. He was abusing me. I did not, sexually and emotionally, I did not realize until quite some time after how abusive and dangerous this relationship in fact was and how it was escalating, until on his birthday, Halloween, when I was in grade 11, he came over to my house after school and he did rape me. I was scared to say no. I felt that I could not do so. It was my job. I was his girlfriend. I didn't have a choice in the matter. None of that was true. I had not received a good sex education. I had not received good education about consent and boundaries and mental health boundaries and that kind of thing. So I was very vulnerable at the time. So it did take me quite some time to realize that what he did to me was sexual assault, and then even longer to realize that what he did to me was in fact rape. I stayed in that relationship until December of that year when I broke up with him. I stayed because I was very scared that he was going to hurt himself or me if I broke up with him. I knew he had a violent streak. I knew he had a tendency to use his fists rather than his words. And so when I did break up with him, I let my guidance counselor and his know. I texted his mother beforehand saying just keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't do anything dangerous. I broke up with him at school outside the staff room with a couple of my friends nearby. That way, if he did anything to me, I honestly thought he was going to break my nose or punch my face in. But that way I would be able to get help if I needed it. And I told him it was because I lost feelings for him. I did not feel safe explaining the real reasons why that relationship ended. So over the next 2 years, it took me quite some time to realize the extent of the damage that was done to me during this relationship and the physical and mental toll it took on me. And so as I went through the next couple of years, I realized and started getting flashbacks and panic attacks, and we ended up being in classes together, and it was very difficult to handle. Last May, at the beginning of quarantine, I did go to the police and report him for sexual assault for what he did to me on his birthday. I hadn't realized that that was an option until a former teacher of mine shared her story with me of sexual assault when she was in university, and I shared my story of sexual assault while I was in high school with her, and she in fact knew the kid who'd done it to me and asked me if I'd gone forward. And up until that point, I had not realized that I could do so, that I was worth it, that I had the option or the right to do so. So that helped me stand up for myself. Dealing with the police and reporting him to the police did not go very well. They didn't really believe me, it seemed. I dealt with one male detective. I had to give an interview, a 2-hour interview in a room alone with this video and audio recorded with this detective that I'd never met before, this male detective. So that was very difficult. And over the course of the next several months, they did a very half-assed investigation, dragging out every piece of information they could from me, but not seeking out anyone who could corroborate or back up my story. And all my ex had to do was say, yeah, I know she didn't want it, but I found that out later. So yeah, I assaulted her, but oopsie, I didn't know at the time, and it went away. So yeah, unfortunately that is where the situation ends, but I am working on healing and moving on and learning from that situation.
We need to believe rape victims because it's not a 50-50 chance they are lying. Statistically, there is more than a 99% chance that they are telling the truth. One of the most cited figures is the 5% of rape allegations that are considered to be false. However, those studies were done on college students, and approximately 95% of college students who get sexually assaulted don't report it. So, since the rapes that were reported are the only ones that can be counted, that statistic of 5% is doing a lot of work here, meaning the actual percentage is about 0.5%. So more about college students. If you are a man, you are more likely to be raped than you are likely to be falsely accused of rape. This issue affects everyone. We need to believe survivors.
I wanted to take the time to highlight male sexual assaults. Many men come forward about sexual assaults to their friends, especially when they have been sexually assaulted by a female. Unfortunately, when they do this, their friends are going to pretty much congratulate them for it, especially if she's young and good looking, or somebody that's an authority figure. Usually when a man comes forward saying he has been sexually assaulted by somebody, this is what they're met with. They're never going to disclose it again because they have been told that this is a good thing and that they should be thankful for. The other side of that is that when men are compared to women, especially in this era, a lot of women turn around and say things like, but it's worse for women. Now when we make it clear, anytime somebody comes over with sexual assault, we see you, we hear you, and we believe you. It doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman. We need to make it clear that it's time to come forward to us. So if you're a man and you are a victim of sexual violence, I just want you to know that we see you, we hear you, and we believe you.
We know this is a sensitive topic, and for some, uncomfortable. But we want to thank you for listening. We hope you have a better understanding of how rape kits work. We hope you understand what happens to the individual mentally and physically. please understand that situations like these can be life-altering and potentially life-ending. We would like to thank these people for sharing their stories. Because of them, we now better understand and comprehend situations like these. We'd like to thank you, the viewer, for listening and having respect while watching this film. If you or someone you know is going through this alone, you can find support at these hotlines or at these support groups. Thank you.